pleasure to have you here, Patrick Hoffman, CEO, Ulysse Nardin. Patrick, Ulysse Nardin goes all the way to 1823 since it started. Fascinating inventions for decades. Would you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the brand and then tell us a little bit about the brand itself?
Yeah, that really goes back to 1996 when I
That's,
worked for a distribution company in Malaysia.
I see.
And of course, Rolf Schneider, who lived most of his life, the last 30 years, in Malaysia, became a friend. We spent time together. And in 1999, he approached me again and said, would you be willing to open a subsidiary for us in the United States?
Right.
So as an employee, I'm really engaged with Ulysse Nardin and with the Schneider family for now 15 years.
Wow.
That was my start, really, in Florida.
My deepest condolences. I've had the opportunity to meet Rolf Schneider in 2008, but I didn't know that he passed away. I believe he passed away in 2011.
That's correct, yeah. So that's now 3 years. And of course, over those 3 years, we came quite a way.
Right.
Because what we really had to do is it was twofold. On the one side, we had to change the company from a patron style management to a real management style. And it's two different ways of how you manage and how you run the company. And we did that transformation over the last 3 years. And at the same time, we had to proceed the plan which we had of fully integration in the production of our own movements. So we did that simultaneously over the last 3 years.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about the brand itself in a short, brief scenario for those who are not aware of Ulysse Nardin. Just a little bit about the background and its fascinating inventions.
Well, of course, I always say the word innovation is very important. And Ulysse Nardin has a long history of being innovative. That's the one side. The other side is Ulysse Nardin has a true history. And I think this is something which we are particularly proud of, which is very important in today's environment. I think the past of a brand name, and of the product is important. And in our case, we can say it is not just an invention of what we do today. Everything we do today when it comes to product and when it comes to communication is based on what we did in the past. And that includes history, that includes the anchor which we have in our logo. Right. So when we have our boutiques now worldwide, which you enter and you have that feel of maritime, right. That's not just an invention by some marketing gurus who we met 5-6 years ago, and they said, you know what, you should take the theme in our communication of boating or yachting. No, it's true, it's history. We used to produce deck chronometers for yachting 100 years ago. So everything we do from a product point of view and communication is based on a true history. And that's something I am particularly proud of.
I understand Professor Ludwig Oechlin, who I've also had the opportunity to meet in Basel, and I was totally fascinated by him. Him and Rolf Schneider in 1983, they had a perfect marriage of innovation and gone through quite a bit of noteworthy timepieces innovation during the last decade or so. Would you highlight some of these innovations that they have done, and how did it create an impact for Ulysse Nardin?
Well, of course, if we would have to put it down into two innovations, really, of course, there is one everybody talks about. It's the trilogy set of timepieces, right. Which consists of the astrolabium, the tellurium, the planetarium. For me, still one of the most fascinating timepieces, and when you combine them as a set, there's nothing like this. When you look at the three together. Then the other one, of course, which strikes me, is the Freak. Now, when we look at the Freak, which came out and was introduced to the market 2000-2001, that was really something which not was just an innovation. Mm-hmm. It changed watchmaking. Right. And I still believe that if somebody is going to write a book about watchmaking now, or in 10 years, or in 50 years from now, the Freak has to be mentioned. It was the first time a timepiece was opened like this from the front, right. On the one side, and it was the first time that silicium was used. Right. And that's key, Today, all our movements which are produced in-house, they have somewhat silicium technology in there. Mm-hmm. It allows us to have a vertical integration of independence in our production of our movement. And we were the first one and the only one for quite a while. Today, if you go and visit Basel, you see reputable brands, the most reputable brands in the industry, who are using silicium today. And for me, this is a perfect example of how innovation is not only for us, but for the watch industry in general. And for me to look at that today, how they use it, it's such a compliment to us.
Right.
And there, of course, Rolf Schneider and Ludwig Oechsling were very instrumental to that.
Now, the silicium technology, this was introduced by Uli Sneijder first, right?
That's correct, yeah.
But now the new companies that have actually adapted this technology, do they source this technology or the materials from you, or do they do it independently following upon these inventions?
Both ways. Some of the companies, we own 50%. It's a joint venture company which is called Sigatec in Sion, which is in the valley,
Right.
southern part of Switzerland. That's a company which doesn't only produce for us.
Right.
So we supply to third parties as well.
Right. Among the collection, I see obviously, I mean, a lot of the collections I've been familiar up till like 2008-9, the marine, functional, exceptional, classical novelties, and the Royal Blue Tourbillon. Of course, I think that's where I have had the pleasure to work with the brand.
I call the free collection a laboratory on the wrist. It's really prototypes which you can wear, which we can sell, and which our customers can enjoy. And even next year and in 2 years from now, you're going to see new developments which are introduced for the first time in the Freak. What was very essential for us this year was the introduction of our caliber 334. That's a dual time caliber.
Right.
2 years before, we introduced our own in-house caliber for the marine collection.
Right.
2014 for the dual time. And those two calibers make up more than 50% of our yearly production output. So we are now this year more than 50% of our own in-house movements which are produced. That's essential on the one side. On the other side, innovation, we introduced an anchor, Uly's anchor escapement. It was just a new escapement which we showed, of course, again based on the silicium technology, and you will see a timepiece with that new escapement, Uly's anchor escapement, next year in Basel. And that's very exciting, because that really shows that we are not at a standstill when it comes to innovation.
Right. How do you foresee the market trend like right now, like in terms of models, aesthetics, and designs? What do you foresee in terms of the market trend? What are the trends that you observe?
I think the trend changed quite a while ago. You know, the times when manufacturers or watchmakers went out and tried to put as many complications as possible and pack them into a timepiece, those times are a bit over. Mm-hmm. I think it's not so much just the expression, no classic and classical look. I think it's more going back to the roots of the various brands on the one side, and also to have something with a true value.
Right.
I think today the consumer wants to have a true value for what he pays in exchange. And I think the aspect of history is more important than it was a few years back. I think today a consumer likes to see that there's a true history behind the brand. You might also realize that certain models, not all, certain lines, became a bit more classic. And a lot has to do, of course, with the trend that the markets in Asia have become much more important than they used to be 10, 15 years ago.